Got a question. Got a question. Ask Tom on Home Show Radio.
This is Home Show Radio live on Facebook and YouTube. Your questions, Tom's answers. Now here's Tom Tynan and Charlie Mosier.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tom Tynan with Home Show Radio on Sports Radio 610 every Saturday at 9 to noon and Sunday 8 to 11. Been doing it for 33 years, helping people in Houston survive home ownership. Well, we had a close one this week, a hurricane that almost hit Houston, but that doesn't mean people didn't suffer. A lot did. We just got lucky this time. Marco just went away, and Laura, well, she decided to hit the left coast instead of the right coast instead of the left coast. Is that right?
Something like that. All the matter which way you're pointing. Yeah.
She's well on her way out of here, but we're still here, and we'll be on this weekend. And we invite you to join us every Thursday here around 4 o'clock on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, we call it Ask Tom Live, and it's an opportunity.
That's Charlie Mosier, by the way.
You don't. It says it right here. Anyway,
good. I can't read.
We are here to answer the questions you send us every week here at HomeShowRadio.com from the Ask Tom section. That's part of what we do. The other part of what we do is we take your questions live here on the show. If you have questions and you want to get Tom's answers without waiting for us to be on the radio this weekend, you're welcome to do it. Just go ahead and enter them into the comment area, and we'll answer your questions right here live as part of the show. We appreciate you being with us. Along with everything else we're going to do, we're going to be joined in a few minutes here by one of Tom's home show pros, and that, of course, is the always entertaining Jim Hardwick from Ideal Roofing. He will be with us here in just a few minutes as we continue on with the show. So with all that, and we have something special for you. We're going to tell you, if you have ever written us a question on the Ask Tom section at HomeShowRadio.com, we have something new we're going to tell you to give you a new way to be able to send us your questions, and we'll cover that here in a few minutes. So with all that aside...
Oh, Charlie, I thought you were going to tell him, look out your window because you just got a brand new Corvette.
You may have, but we had nothing to do with it.
We have, but not from us. Okay, fine.
Right. The third caller will win a car today. We're not taking calls, so that's a safe bet. All right, let's get to the questions that you sent us here at HomeShowRadio.com. First one comes from Jorge in the Heights. Tom, he says, your advice helped me build my house 20 years ago, and I am now encountering a squeaky floor. We have wood floors upstairs, so it must be the underlying deck. Is there a solution to minimize this noise?
The only thing you can do, and I'm not sure what kind of floor covering he has upstairs, let's start with carpet. You pull back the carpet and you find the floor joist and you take screws and you screw it down as tight as you possibly can. There's nothing else to do. I can't tell him to tear it up. Today we try to use construction adhesive. We use screws. We try to get everything down real well so it doesn't squeak and it doesn't loosen up. But sometimes it'll loosen up over time. So that's what he can do. If he's got a different type of floor like a hardwood or some laminates and stuff, I probably would tell him not to do anything because you'd have to tear the floor up and get a new one, which would be expensive. Unless you're in the market to do that, then it would be easy. But that's what I would tell you is you're going to have to find a way to get a mechanical fastener through the subfloor and into the floor joist, whatever it is. And if you have a floor like a wood floor on top of it, then you might have to pull it up and rethink the floor covering on there because you're not going to be able to make it just go away with magic.
My question is, does he have kids? Because when I had squeaky floors in my house back when my kids were growing up,
yes,
they were that I knew when they were out of bed, and it got to the point where I could tell which kid it was by the size of the squeak. And I used to be able to stand at the bottom of the stairs and call their name up the stairs and tell them to get to bed. How do you know I'm up? Like, because I'm your dad. That's how it works.
I know. I put the boys' bedroom on top of the master bedroom downstairs. I always knew what they were doing.
That's exactly
the cameras helped too. They just never knew about those.
Yeah, and the girls got older and just nailed the window shut. So, all right. Next question comes from Donald in Katy. He says, What are your thoughts on the pros and cons? He says, why are your thoughts? But I think he means, what are your thoughts on the pros and cons of leaving an attic access door open that's in the garage, leaving it open all the time to alleviate heat in the attic space?
If it works for you, fine. I know in the old days, people used to open their attic doors, and it comes from, in the old days, we didn't have air conditioning, actually air conditioning I had, but I was born in 58, so I don't remember the time when I didn't. If I did, it was up north. But the whole house fan had this big louvered opening in the middle of the house, and you turn this fan on, and you would open the window in the room you're in, and it would pull the air through that window and out through the attic. So people got this idea, if you put a hole to the attic, it's going to cool your house. But an attic stair is not a whole house fan. I doubt you'll find much difference. If you want to try it, I'm not going to tell you not to, because it's not going to hurt you any. It's just, I think, probably not going to help. And we're back to August, and I get this every August. I've been doing the show for 33 years. Tom, my attic is hot. How can I cool it down? Can I put an attic vent in there? Jim can talk about attic vents later. Maybe an air hawk will cool my garage. No, it'll move air through the attic. But if you want to cool a garage or a house or a business, you got to have air conditioning. If you could cool a garage by putting a roof vent in, why would we have an air conditioner in our house? It's going to be hot in Houston in the garage, period.
I'm My
Except
first,
for mine, I've got 1.5 tons central, but okay, that's fine.
well, it's because you're a special snowflake.
No,
But
because
the,
I don't like heat.
okay.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
well,
not a
here's
snowflake.
well, here's and here's the thing is when I read this question, the thing that struck me right away is you're opening up to let the heat. What's forcing the heat out? What's it exchanging with? You just opening the door is not going to. The heat's not going to go. Hey, let's go outside.
Well, hot air rises. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So the hot air will rise, but what will happen is the cooler air. Now, cooler is a relative term. You can have 110 degree hot air and 95 degree or 98 degree cooler air, which will drop down. So it will have a little bit of dropping and rising and dropping, but is it going to cool off the garage and make you feel like you're sitting in the living room in 72 degrees? No, your armpits are still going to take a beating, but they have products at CVS for that.
I'm just moving on to the next question. It comes from Joel in Mont Bellevue. He says, I have a single handle Moen kitchen faucet. He says, when the handle is in the off position, I move the handle to the cold side and the faucet begins to drip. When I move it to the hot position, it stops. Does this sound like I need to replace the cartridge in the handle, Tom?
Not only the cartridge, but they used to call these things washerless faucets. It was a sales gimmick because a washer was a very specific thing in a faucet. But they have these rubber O-rings and little springs, and when you get a rebuild kit, it's more than just the cartridge, although it could just be the cartridge. But yes, the faucet needs to be cleaned out. It probably has debris in there. The O-rings could be worn, or the cartridge could be worn too. So they have a whole rebuilding kit. Moen's real good about it. So if you go to a plumbing supply and not a Lowe's or Home Depot, because you probably won't find what you need, they might be able to help you if you bring a picture and if you want to get into it. Every faucet is different. I haven't worked on every one. I'm not a cartridge expert. Abacus Plumbing and the plumbers over there, they're cartridge experts. They probably changed everyone out there. So some have snap rings, some pull right out, some go in a very specific way. You've got to know what you're doing when you're changing cartridges. So what I always tell people is if you ever have to have a cartridge changed, watch the plumber do it one time, take notes, take pictures if you have to, and then maybe next time you can do it yourself.
I have my all-purpose plumbing tool right here. And I have Abacus on speed dial. So,
actually, I do too.
Hey,
I can't fit under a kitchen sink anymore.
All right. I got a question that just came into us from Mike, one of our viewers, and he is, as you can see, dynamite. He says he wants to know who's our preferred vendor for home generators, Tom.
First off, he called us last week, if you remember. Dynamite. You mentioned that last week.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's right.
All right. I never forget a name or a question. No, a name of a caller and a question.
Okay.
But as far as that goes, it's KISS generators. We go to HomeShowRadio.com. You can see all of our certified Home Show Pro. But KISS, and the K for KISS starts with stands for Kohler. And the Kohler generator, and I have one at my house, Charlie. I know you have a Kohler. Mm-hmm. They're the best generators out there. So if you're going to buy a new generator, you get a Kohler from KISS generators. If you have any of the other name brands and it's not working, they still will come out and service the whole thing. So they are full service. They are the dependable people. But it's KISS generators. Go to HomeShowRadio.com and find out exactly how to go to their website, contact them. And Bert Jr. and Bert Sr., they're wonderful people, and they will take care of you.
I was on a phone call with one of my clients up in Delaware. Lives next door to Joe Biden.
Nice. Okay.
Well, everybody. If you know Delaware, everybody lives next door to everybody. But anyway, it's a pretty tiny place. Bigger. But anyway, he's up in the Wilmington area. Anyway, I was talking to him, and they have a generator on their business, and they're talking about whether or not when it should exercise and all this other stuff, and they're talking about it. And I felt like. Ooh, Mr. Cotter, I know the answer to this. Because I've talked to Bert for so long and been around generators, and I will tell you that you can search high and low to find somebody to know half what they know, and they bring a lot of heart to what they do. All right.
Yes.
Speaking of heart, It's time to welcome our home
Jim
show
Hartwick.
Jim Hartwell. Oh, yeah. He puts the heart in roofing. He sure does. He's one of our home show pros. If you go to our homepage, you can find him. He's right there. Look, Ideal Roofing. You click on it, and it loads his page. And before you know it, you're looking right. Well, that's Tom. But if you fill a form out or you call him, then you'll be looking at him like you are right now here on our show. Hello. Tom's hitting the bottle there. But anyway, and
Hydrate.
I know you're not with Antifa because it's thawed. So anyway.
That's true.
That's true. All right. Anyway, so Jim, I know that Jim is our longest running home show pro. He has been with us from the very beginning, and for 30-something years. Ideal Roofing's been a loyal supporter of Home Show Radio.
It had to be 1990 because that's when Ideal Roofing put that roof on in Porter, Texas. So it was 1990 when I built that house. That was the second one I built.
Well, I know he's not only a roofer, but he's also a waterproofer. Timely topic. Well, it would have been if the weather guessers had been, had the storm come through here. But they'll have another chance to get it right. I hope, or I don't hope. But anyway,
oh, you hope?
No, I don't.
Nice.
So Jim, we talk a lot about how one of the things you do is not just roofing but waterproofing. Maybe you can expand on that topic for us a little bit.
Well, we run into that a lot with homeowners that have balconies. That's where you get into the waterproofing part of it, where door pans, window pans, the balcony, flat surfaces, removing those. What a lot of builders seem to do is sometimes put in flat sheets of metal and solder it together, which the joints start to rust, and they're just not using, the products for the long term. And it's usually several years with a second homeowner that's having fits with their balconies.
Jim, I'm sorry. I just had a little delay here. It froze on me.
Tom froze up. He's going to blame. Don't blame it on Skype now.
He is doing that now. Jim, what about windows, doors, door pans, things of that nature? Because I get a lot of calls. I always lead them in your direction as far as other breaches in the house. But patios are definitely, I know, a big one.
Yeah, and the door pans, people don't realize, if the doors don't have a proper step down or it's exposed to the weather, the door pan, which goes underneath that threshold that you step on, it's underneath that. And it just has a lip underneath there to prevent water from running into your house under the threshold. And I think we did Charlie and Tom, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we helped that guy with the balcony that had, we did a video of his door pan was in pieces, and it was, instead of being one continuous piece, and he was fighting that battle for many, many repairs, and we fixed it for him. And sometimes it can be something as simple as a door pan. So
that's all part of the waterproofing process.
That's right.
I had a roofer come to me at TSC, and they want to do roofing classes. They do commercial roofing, or they actually supply the labor for companies that do commercial roofing all over the country. And they said, what do you call it? And I said, I want to call it roofing and waterproofing. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy, but half of the stuff they do in commercial buildings is all flashing and parapet wall covers, and it's all a waterproofing process, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah. And a lot of times in commercial buildings, when you're dealing with cinder blocks on the vertical wall, you have to waterproof it. It's not a roofing type of material. It's a waterproofing material that goes on there.
Well, I'll tell you what we do. We got a bunch of questions here we teed up. And remember that if you're watching at home, we'd love to come. Even if you just say hi, we'd love to hear from you. And if you got questions, there's a chance to talk directly with Jim and Tom. We've assembled at least, a dozen or so years of experience right here for you.
Dozen. I wish it was. Then I'd be 35 again.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Let's get our first question. First question to us comes from Michael in Pasadena. He says, my roof vents and my water heater and HVAC leak during the heavy rains. And so the vents for these, he says, the gaps between the vent pipe and the roof jack, where the vent pipe exits the jack, he says, it looks like I'm missing a storm collar to cover the gaps between the vent pipe and the hole in the roof jack. And I'll tell you how common a question this is. We also got the same question or similar question from Durza in Missouri City, and she says, I have water leaking into my home. The insurance rep found no damage on the roof, but he said that it looks like I'm missing the collars that cover the gaps between the vent pipe and the holes in the roof jack. How common is this, Jim?
having it missing, I would say, isn't real. The most common problem is they don't reseal that collar. But there are times where it is missing. And how it gets missing, I don't know. I don't think it's roofers or anybody else, because in order to remove that pipe that you see on the roof goes all the way continuous into your attic. So they purposely have to take that sleeve and run it all the way up. And usually they just move it down 2 or 3 inches. The most common thing I see is it's just not being resealed. And even if you get a new roof, we even explain to homeowners in our packet that we send them, that becomes a maintenance item, because the warranty and the materials that are being used are going to last way longer than the sealant around that collar. So, 5 years or something like that, you probably have to, need some roof maintenance and reseal that collar. But if they're missing a storm collar, absolutely, it's a pretty, Tom knows, Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever, it's $5. That's the cheap part. The expensive part is if it's 2-story steep and being the guy that slips it on. Yeah.
Well, Jim, let me just say, as a contractor in my former days, and if I didn't have the roofer, in your case, your company most of the time, make sure the detail work was done on the roof, the plumbers will take them off so they can shove the pipe from the inside up instead of dropping it down with the collar on top, because they don't want to get on the roof and they don't have a ladder that'll go that high.
That's right.
And then they want to pookie up in there the best they can. And so it does happen when you have a non-professional put that in, and a lot of homeowners will do it too. Just take that off and they can shove it up instead of dropping it down. And so I've seen that happen on people's homes.
Yeah, they probably, honestly, run into that where they do that because they're afraid to tell the homeowner that it's going to cost more to have a roofer go out there and put just a little $5 piece on. So that, therefore, they're worried that the homeowner probably won't choose them because they're going to be a little bit more expensive. But if they take their time, like you just did, Tom, and explain to them, homeowners want it done right.
You always want the roofer to flash the outside. You don't want plumbers, handymen, electricians. I mean, they all know what they're doing, but not when it comes to waterproofing. Sorry.
Right.
Well, it's one of the many things I know you talk about when you inspect a roof, Jim, that you look for, that you check those kind of things. And we're going to, in a couple of minutes, we're going to share a video that we did with you where you give people tips on how to check your roof from the ground, common things you can look for. And that's one of them. We'll cover that here in just a minute. Next question comes to us from Lisa in Jacksonville. She says, I have a 100-year-old 2-story house. Its metal roof has no underlayment. It's open to the attic, she says, and the temperature control on the second floor is always a problem, especially on 90-degree plus days. While there is fiberglass insulation under the floor of the attic, we're exploring ways to insulate the roof, maybe with a reflective barrier. What are your tips on that, Jim?
Well, I'd probably, some of the questions would be, I know she didn't put this in detail, she's experiencing any moisture on the bottom of that metal. A lot of times what you'll see when it's not decked, she said it wasn't decked, right? She can see the metal from the underside.
That's
you
right.
get that dew point, the relative humidity in the dew point, like on commercial buildings. And that's why, and Tom probably knows the exact terminology. It's like, it's insulation. It looks like drapery. And they just put it on the bottom of the metal. And it's real thin, and it's not so much for insulation as it is to create that dew point so that the bottom of the metal's not sweating. It alleviates the dew point problem on the underside of the metal.
And for those of you out there that have sat around a pool with a Miller Lite can really cold in your hand,
Yep.
and it sweats, what Jim is talking about is basically, Charlie, it's not a koozie,
It's a foam drink insulator.
Yes, you insulate it with the foam drinking insulator, which we call koozies. And if the air doesn't touch the cold metal, the dew point, like Jim says, it won't reach. And, water is vapor, it's liquid, and it's solid. It'll stay a vapor and find somewhere else to go. But that's what will happen with an exposed metal. So the insulation you're talking about is like a vinyl-backed fiberglass. It's real thin, and all it's supposed to do, and if you go to like Mueller Steel Buildings, where they sell a lot of steel buildings, that always come with an insulation package like that. It goes right up against the metal so the air won't touch the metal, and then it's wrapped on the inside with a foam insulator product. But as far as the radiant barrier goes, you can't beat that either. So if you put a radiant barrier in there, that's going to help you with your heat problem. You'll just have to do it with the foil that's perforated and staple it after you put the insulation against the metal.
So you can't use the spray-on stuff on a metal roof then, Tom?
You can, but it's not going to stop a sweating problem if that exists. Okay.
And
but
there's a chance.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, when I take my camera from inside to outside, I got to put it outside for about 10, 20 minutes before I use it so that it'll normalize. So that's what you're seeing. You got that heat transfer across the metal. Okay. All right. Now, if I just had a cheap plastic camera, I probably wouldn't have that problem. All right. Last question for you, Jim, comes from James in Pearland. He says, I don't object to new ideas, but I just want to know what's best. He tells us a contractor informed him that 30-pound felt is no longer used, and my existing roof has a 30-pound felt and it lasts 28 years. Stay off my lawn. Now, he says, not pretty, but still held out the storms. Even now, the wind damage, it's not leaked. Which is better, he wants to know, Jim, the new synthetics or this good old 30-pound felt?
Well, there is some truth I wouldn't say is not used anymore. I'd just say it's becoming more and more rare using organic felt paper, whether it's 15 or 30-pound felt. And the industry over the last 5 years has gone heavily to synthetics. And there's probably, I don't know, I don't want to exaggerate and say 100, but at least 10 to 15 different synthetic felts in the market. I think they are good. I think they are better, but it's like anything else. There's some really cheap ones out there. And so, it's still about the quality of the synthetic. So the tensile strength, meaning a lot of the synthetics you get, if I hand it to you, you're not going to be able to tear it. If I hand you a 30-pound felt or 15, you're going to tear it just like paper. The other part is the permeability of it. In other words, it's waterproof, but it's still allowing your attic space to breathe a little bit. Those two things are the things you look for. There's some good ones, but yes, we have moved over the last maybe 6 or 7 years to probably 95% synthetic felts.
So, Jim, what's a brand that you use for your long warranties? Is there a particular product you use?
Yeah, GAF makes a couple of good products. One would be their Felt Buster, which is a good base. I call it a base type synthetic. They have one that's called Tiger Paw. When you see the difference between the two, it's extreme. The Tiger Paw is very high quality, much thicker. And some of these products too are designed not necessarily just for the homeowner and the value of the roof, but also the safety of the guys. So a lot of the cheaper, inexpensive synthetics are very slick, and you don't want to use those on a steep roof. Both of those products have a very good surface for the guys for safety, quality, and those two items as far as the tensile strength and permeability.
You said Tiger Paw?
Tiger Paw, yep.
It reminds me of that tire commercial where the tiger would come out. I can't remember the brand of the tire, and would grab the road. It was Tiger Paw.
Yeah, and you can see.
I think that was BF Goodrich.
Was it? I think you're right. Maybe.
Anyway,
I remember that when you said Tiger Paw. I see that tiger coming out of that wheel.
Yeah, when you roll it out, they put Tiger Paw prints on the underlayment.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that, Jim, that's not to be mistaken for those kind of those ones that are out there claiming to be an all-in-one underlayment, radiant barrier, insulator, and all the other stuff. You stay away from those in general?
Yeah, and I think we've had a question about those, but yeah, just because we went into detail about how radiant works, I think Tom also agreed. Show me.
Yeah, it's an underlayment. It'll work as an underlayment. It probably is pretty slick, though. I bet you slide right off of that thing if it got wet. But once you put the shingle on it and you read the specs, it'll say underlayment. It no longer is a radiant barrier, but it's an underlayment is what it is.
I just brought it up because I know that not everybody watches every week, and it's a chance somebody may have missed it. So I just want to make sure, since we were covering underlayment, we fully covered it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yes, sir, Tiger Paw Man.
Yes. Okay. So, Jim, thank you so much for... Oh, no. I have been corrected. Oh, and of course, of all the people, of course, Robert Glasser. You know him.
Tom? Oh, yeah, Glacier.
Glacier from from the
Hey, Robert.
HCC. That's right. He says, no, it was Uniroyal
That's
had
it.
that. It
Uniroyal.
was
You're
Uniroyal.
right.
All right. Robert, all together, we bow to you. We should, okay.
Thank you for all your help, Robert. The past.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. See, we got the smartest people watching us.
Yeah, you know.
Though there's kind of an oxymoron. They're smart, but they're watching us. I'm not sure which way to take that. All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for being here. But, I know that we didn't have the storm come through, and in a way, there are a lot of people who got lucky with that in more ways than one. And some of the ways, of course, are maybe their roof isn't ready. And so we're about to watch something here talking about that. You give some great advice with that, and we'll get into that. But before we go, we do want to thank you for being with us. And
Thank you, Jim.
look forward to having you on. And, by the way, there's something I didn't mention at the very beginning of the show about you. I want to be sure I mention before we go. And Tom talks about this. And it took me a while to understand why it was so important. But you don't use standard flashing and all that. You have your own break in the shop, and you're doing that all yourself. Isn't that right? Everything you do is made for each job. Why is that important?
Well, yeah. So it's not every piece, but it's the pieces. For instance, drip edge. Most drip edge is at a 90 degree, but when you get into wall flashings and certain valley and dead valley pans and things of that nature, the only thing that's stocked at the supply houses are 90 degree metal. So when you need something broke at a 60, a 30, or 40, or what have you, and the reason why that's important is because, anybody that's selling a house knows when the inspector comes to evaluate your house and they see the flashing that was originally bent at a 90 and somebody's nailed it down. Well, metal wants to stay at where it was bent. So if it's bent at a 90, even though you nail it down, it's trying to pull itself back up to the original bend, which is 90. And that's why you see everybody's flashing, and your average homeowner will sit there and go, oh, the wind must have lifted it. No, the wind didn't lift it. It finally just worked its way back to the original bend, which is a 90. So that's why it's important to have a sheet metal and to have these things where there's, when we install them, there's no nails, because then that's great, because that just lowered your maintenance. And the reason for that is because I don't need a nail to hold it down in place.
And basically what he's talking about is a sheet metal break, right?
Yep.
Is the machine. And let's make it clear, Jim's not down there bending the metal himself.
I do sometimes.
Do you?
I'm the only one in the shop, and they say I'm 2 pieces short. He said, I got it, man. I'm going back there and sweat. But,
I stand corrected.
That's why he's an ideal guy, Jim. Up at dawn, up a ladder, and on your roof. All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for being with us here this afternoon, and appreciate it. If you are looking to connect up with him, let me just see. Here we go. You want to find him, you just go to HomeShowRadio.com. You'll find him right there on our homepage. You scroll down, and you'll find the Ideal button. You click on that. It takes you to the Ideal page, and wham, bam, there you are. You're in touch with Jim Hardwick. So, Jim, thanks again for being with us.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed it. And by the way, let everybody know we have a fantastic new website.
Oh.
And there is a chat button down on the bottom. So at any time, the interactive, if you have questions, the website can help you.
It's a good looking website too. So, all right.
Thank you, Jim.
Let's talk.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's talk about taking care of your roof to make sure you're ready for the next storm.
If they're nailed down properly and everything is sealed, you should be fine. You should make it through that storm without any major blow-offs or catastrophes.
Think your roof is ready for the next big storm? Let's climb up and take a better look.
We call this area storm collar.
An inspection is the only way to know what shape your roof is in.
Let me show you all the debris right here. So I know water's getting underneath here and these shingles aren't sealed down.
Ridges commonly have exposed nails.
So you can see the rusty nail. These are potential leak issues.
Other problems are more obvious.
This particular ridge, the shingle is totally cracked because of the sharp angle.
Lead jacks cover vent pipes. Squirrels love to gnaw on them.
This used to be about this big. Now it's all the way up to here. The opening to your attic is right here where my finger is. So any wind-driven rain that gets underneath here can find its way into the pipe.
Rough around the edges doesn't always spell trouble.
Look here at this flashing. Yes, it looks old, but it does look like it's intact. I don't see any gaps in the sealant.
Not the same for the flashing on the front of this chimney.
You can see this is just now starting to lift up. I can stick my finger underneath here.
roof, gutters and valleys need to be debris-free.
What happens with the debris? It slows the water down, and when it slows the water down, the water starts going sideways and can get underneath your shingles.
Having shady tree limbs over the roof is okay, but not when they are touching.
I've seen a couple of jobs where it actually wore a hole through the shingle and through the decking, and they had a hole in the roof because of a limb.
A long-lasting roof is only as good as its weakest shingle.
If you've had a roof and you haven't done anything to it in 3 to 5 years, you need to give us a call. You need roof maintenance.
Hurricane season can easily make big problems out of little ones. That's why I recommend having your roof inspected regularly by a qualified roofer, like the certified Home Show pros at Ideal Roofing. For HomeShowRadio.com, I'm Tom Tynan.
See, that's what Tom looks like when he's in his right shirt.
Oh, yes. Well, I need some more. I only have 2.
Well, you see, when poor Tom, what happened is he got stuck here because they thought the storm, they canceled his flights back down Brownsville, and he left his shirt down there. So, anyway. All right.
It's okay. We missed the storm. Houston's good. I enjoy it with my wife, and I'm heading down tomorrow morning to spend the week before Labor Day. Then I'll come back in Labor Day.
Well, I've got big news for everybody. Now, we appreciate all the questions y'all have sent in. We're here live every Thursday at 4 o'clock. So if you got questions, you get them here and join us, and we'll get you in. And we have a special guest every week, just like this. But if you want to send your question to Ask Tom to be on here or in our daily Ask Tom videos, have we got something for you? Hang on, where is that bad boy? And we can, and we'll have you in there. And the other thing you can do now is you can, what happened? There you go.
You froze on me. I didn't know what you were doing.
You can go in and you can click on record video, and you can send us a video of your question now. Yeah, and it works great on mobile too. So if you want to be on camera, telling Tom what you're doing, you can use that and send us your question using video to us, and we can include it on the show. Or if you want to take a video of what the problem is, you can do that and send it to us. Either way, we can use it here on HomeShowRadio.com and feature you here on the show. And that's our deal. So brandy new. We're the only ones with it. So help us offset the expense of setting this up. No, take advantage of this opportunity by using your mobile phone, and you too can enter the exciting world of broadcasting with your phone and asking your questions to Tom, who will, of course, be here to help you this weekend.
Yes, it'll be Saturday from 9 to 12, right after Danny, my garden hero, and he's on Home Show Garden Pros from 7 to 9, and then hands it off to me from 9 to 12 on Saturday. And Sunday, Charlie starts off the morning with me as we do a half hour or more of early edition, and I will continue on for the other 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes, of your questions and answers until 11 o'clock on Sports Radio 610. So make sure you tune in if you want to get some answers. And always remember, podcasts, and Charlie, you can help me with this. We have other ways to listen to the show 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a stream. You can catch our stream at HomeShowRadio.com. You can listen to our podcast. It's available on the Apple or Spotify. And, of course, Tom's on the radio. And, of course, the website. We got the videos. Or we have a YouTube channel, a Facebook page. We're everywhere except Twitter and TikTok. And I'm drawing the line right there. Ain't doing anything with those Chinese. Anyway, so that's the deal. So we appreciate you being here, and we'll be back again next Thursday with another Facebook Live. Let's see. Hang on. I got a button. Oh, here we go. Where's the close? It's not here. All right. I can't find it. It's not on my button, so we'll just say goodbye. Oh, no, here it is. I found it. I know. I know. Well, okay. Here. You try to, here. I'll hold it, Tom. You find the right one, okay? You find the right one. All right, here. No, it's right here. All right.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show Radio. Home Show